Have you heard about the M50 yet? Canon M50. Killer lens. APS-C sensor. It's a cool little camera. It's great for vlogging. YouTubers love it. All the people in Asia love it. It's so small and compact you can put it in your pocket, except with this lens a little large, but this is one of their killer lenses on here. So you want to find out about the M50? Blah, blah, blah. I feel like I can only speak a little bit. Find out about some of the cool lenses with the EOS-M Mount. Stay tuned, and we'll find out together. All right, back in a sec.
Here I am, Vietnam. Rain is always coming down.
This is Camera Talk with Dr. Scott. This week, we're going to be talking about the very first camera system that I bought into. You know, it's got a long history in the world of optics and cameras, so I figured I couldn't go wrong. And what started me off in this pursuit was looking for a camera to do videos, such as what I'm doing now. Although I wasn't considering doing it for photography, I was considering doing it for communication skills and things like this for my students. But anyway, so I went to the camera store, local camera store, and I was after an SL2, or what was known as a Rebel. And that was because after a lot of research, you know, I determined that that was the best bang for the buck at the time. And as I went into the you know, the camera store, and I was asking the owner for, you know, a copy of this camera, somebody else, one of the other customers in the store, said, "Why do you want that?" And he says Canon M50 had just come out, and it's, you know, it's a great little camera, and it's the same price as the SL2 or the Rebel, and but it had 4K video and whatnot. So I bought it. You know, I tried it out, and this is it here. Now, of course, you know, most people would probably think, well, why did you get it in white? You know, generally most people like black cameras, but they were all out of black. So white was fine for me. What do I care what the color of the camera was, as long as it takes pictures and makes videos. So that was my purchase. My wife and I went in, picked up this M50 for, I think it was like $500 and something. I forget the exact amount. I'll post that over here. And it came with this kit lens here, which is a 15 to 45 millimeter, 3.5 to 6.3 lens, kit lens. And of course, because the M50 is an APS-C sensor, you know, it has the crop factor, and of course Canon, wanting to be different than other companies, who, you know, the Sonys and Panasonics and everybody else out there, Fujis, all have 1.5 crop factors on things, but these guys have 1.6, just to be different.
Well, isn't that special?
So anyway, the equivalent of this 15 to 45 on a full frame,
how big is it?
is 24 to 70. You know, is what the pros are looking for in a kind of a dual lens. So that's what Canon came up with for their M line, which is EOS-M, and it has to do with the mount and the type of lenses. Now, they had other M series cameras out there, but this was, you know, this one came after, I think it was the M5, which was the kind of the other big brother to this one here. But it was much more expensive, and pretty much did the same thing. Now, the other attraction to this for people was the size of it. It's very small.
There's so many different sizes.
Thus, as you can see, this black frame around here, which is called you know, a cage, or an L bracket. There's a lot of different terms for them. But what it does is it adds more bulk to the side here, so I can grip, and I don't even have big hands, but the fact that you know, the fact that it gives me extra grip on it makes a big difference.
What he said.
So anyway, kind of just jumped right on in there, talking about the M50. But you know, to go back a little in time, Canon. Hopefully you know of Canon. You know, they actually began their foray into the world of optics and cameras back in 1937 in Tokyo. A group of guys got together and basically they liked the Leica and Contax cameras, so they took it upon themselves to disassemble them, check them out. Figured there was nothing special going on. It was just, you know, brass and other metals and rubber put together to make this camera body. It wasn't that complicated. So they figured they could do the same thing. So they started creating their own cameras. Now, what many of you may not know about Canon is the fact that, you know, because yes, they made the bodies, but they didn't make the optics. So they went to a company who they thought their optics were pretty good, which is Nikon. It was a Nippon Kogaku, which ended up being Nikon later in the years. But so yeah, you probably didn't know that, did you? The original Canon cameras were using Nikon lenses. They were called Nikon, of course, back then. But you know, and another little bit of tidbit, you know, information for you too. As much as Canon is kind of the king of camera world, they actually didn't even design and build their own camera in-house until the year 2000. So it's only been 20 years that they've been making their own cameras. Before that, they used hodgepodge parts from other companies. So in the 1990s, they were building bodies, but using Kodak digital backs to the camera at the time for their DSLRs. But anyway, so this, you know, this video is about the M line that I have here. So again, the Canon M50, it's super popular here in Asia. Probably due to the size and due to the fact that it's economical. Also to the fact that their lenses are tiny and super lightweight. You can put these things in your pocket. They're not very expensive. You know, there's a lot of great things that could be said about this. So, you know, again, to give you an overview of the M50, it is an APS-C camera with a 24.2 megapixel sensor, CMOS sensor. ISO range goes from 100 up to 25,600, even though I would suggest not going that high. Its performance is not that great with such a high ISO.
I don't like the artsy fartsy.
You know, the camera also shoots video. I use this for most of my YouTube videos. It has great HD, 1080, 1080p. The 4K works, but I don't use it just because, you know, APS-C is already 1.6 times cropped. But when you use 4K video, you crop it again by 1.6 times. So it's brought down. I mean, the quality of the picture is pretty good, but you know, again, it looks like you're right zoomed in and up on my face. So I don't care for it all that much. So I don't use it. Also, during 4K, you lose the dual pixel autofocus, so that therefore it's contrast detection is how it focuses. So it could, you know, hunt in it and out looking for the subject. The other great selling point on this is the back screen. Not only swivels, but it tilts. So you can, when you're vlogging or whatnot, you can actually see yourself on here, or you can tilt it and, you know, get different angles while you're using it. It's also a touch screen. You know, everything's
I'm a fucking artist.
So as you can see, using the screen here, it's touch screen. So you could bring up, various menu features here, which you could touch and change options and so forth and so on. So again, it's it's a great little camera, good bang for the buck, so to speak. But anyway, I close that off. It has ports alongside for microphone. One thing it doesn't have is headphone jack for those videographers who may want to listen in on whatever's happening. Because I film my own stuff, I don't really care.
I don't care
about that. I'm only interested in the microphone jack on that. It has all the typical basic buttons that you need on the back of here. It's definitely not full of features like its big brother, the M5 has a lot of dials and things on top, extra buttons. Has a HDMI socket here. It has a Wi-Fi connection here, so you can hook up to your cell phone or anything like that. What else can I tell you about this? It is how much? 387 grams, which is 13.7 ounces, I do believe. So it's not even a pound. 16 ounces a pound, so it's not even 1 pound. It's again very light, can easily fit in your pocket. What I'm going to do next is talk about each one of the lenses here. Also, the processor inside is something to mention as well. The Digic 8 processor is the first camera to use that, which allowed for faster shots per second. It's up to 10 frames per second on that before the buffer fills up on it. It's not super fast, but hey, remember this came out in 2018. It's already a 2-year-old camera. So it's nothing special, but it's good enough. Dual pixel eye detection for autofocus. It has 143 focus points, that it can target around your subject. It has single slot. Bottom here, small battery. It's very tiny, so it's very, very compact too. Some people complain about that. They get 235 shots basically out of that camera, which is plenty for me. Not being a pro out zapping things up. It has a single SD card slot right next to the camera, so it just sits in behind this little door here. I think that was all I really wanted to talk about with the camera itself. But again, it was the first Canon camera with 4K video, so that was his claim to fame, and it was perfect because it's so light. Again, it's perfect for vlogging in that regard. So again, the kit lens 15 to 45, f3.5 to 6.3. The next lens I want to talk about is this little pancake here. This is the 22 millimeter, and it's a great little lens. I mean, look at the size of that. It's tiny.
That's what she said.
You fit 5 or 6 of these in your pocket. It's very light. Autofocus for manual is very smooth, but it's a simple design. It's 7 elements in 6 groups, 7 aperture blades. All of these have 7 rounded aperture blades, so they have some decent sun stars and bokeh and whatnot in that. So it's great in that regard. Its close focus distance is 15 centimeters, which is nice, or half a foot, 6 inches in that regard. And it's 105 grams, if that, and that feels lighter than that actually, but that's what it is, and it's a cool little lens. Oh, one thing I forgot to talk about with my my 15 to 45 here was the details in that regard. So let me back up a second here. This one has 10 elements in 9 groups, again 7 aperture blades. Its close focus distance is 25 25 centimeters or 8 inches. It's image stabilized, as I said before. But let me, as I usually do, let me take a close-up, wide open here, f3.5, just to show you what it looks like from my point of view. Again, I'm only maybe a meter away from the camera, and I'm filming with a A7R2 Sony right now. So anyway, so that's my 15 to 45 kit lens comes with it. So as I said, and as you can see, it's a little tiny APS-C sensor. So let me move on to the 22. But before I do, let me show you some quickie pictures of Dylan. Remember, in my videos I use my son Dylan as a little model. He loves to model for me. So I'll give you some pictures of him at 15 millimeter. So here they are right now. So now let's move on to the 22. Now the 22 is a cool little pancake, as you can see. It's barely, almost the cage is the same size. So again, you can slip this whole thing in your pocket, and not even notice it. So the 22, I've talked about already all the specs on it. So let me get you a close up. Or a zip in on the wide open. So let me get down to f2. All right, so at the end of the barrel here, and this it's actually a Canon 24 millimeter f2 that I'm filming this with, and it's an FD mount, so it's a vintage lens. So let me get a picture of the end of the barrel here. All right. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So let me also put that baby to bed, so to speak. All right, now give you some photos of Dylan right now that come along with it. So here's Dylan. Let me move along now to the 28 millimeter. Now this is probably the most interesting out of the 4 lenses that I have, because it's a 28 millimeter macro lens. So the 28 millimeter macro is a 3.5 aperture, and it has actually just like my 15 to 45, it has a latch here you have to open to get it to extend to the 28 millimeter length. And then they have a second switch which brings it to super macro. So you go from 1 times to 1.2 times to get that macro finish. Now before I talk about macro, let me just talk about the 28. So the 28 millimeter has built-in lights for the macro, and I'll get to that in a second. But it has 7 aperture blades, as we talked about already, and it has 11 elements in 10 groups So there's a lot of glass in this little baby here, and it's fairly light, 130 grams. So let me get you a picture of, again, the front of my lens here, my 24 millimeter. 1, 2, 3. All right. But also let me show you, again, the little features here, such as the macro. So there's a lens hood on it right now, which screws on. As you can see, it's not much of a lens hood, but what it does is it covers the front end here. And as you can see, this is a ring light around here. So let me turn it on for you. There's a little switch on the side here. You can't see it from there, but believe me, there is one. A little switch with a icon of a light bulb. So you press it on, as you can see.
Do not go into the light!
We have lights on both sides that light up the subject as you're trying to take a picture of it, macro size. You can also dull it down a little bit with an extra push. You can turn it off, turn it one side.
Stop playing with yourself.
And dull and off. So cool. So anyway, so that's the macro. So let me show you some pictures of Dylan right now. Since we're talking about macro, let me show you, I took a picture of Dylan's eye using the macro, but of course, because he's a baby, he didn't want to actually sit still while there was something this far away from his face with a bright light on it. So the best I could do was get the skin underneath, the fold of skin underneath his eye. So here's that. So it's pretty cool, huh? So as I said, this is kind of the most interesting lens out of the group, is this 28 millimeter. Okay, so let me move on to the big boy here, which is the 32 millimeter, and this is kind of the cream of the crop as far.
Oh, behave.
It is 32 millimeter f1.4, so it's a fast lens compared to these guys. So it's much more sought after in that regard from those out there seeking, a great portrait lens, as well as something that's very sharp. So as usual, let me get a shot of the end of the lens here, the end of my my Canon lens. All right, 1, 2, 3. So a little bit about this lens now. It is, again, an f1.4, and it's it goes from f1.4 up to f16 as opposed to 22 as these guys do. It's 14 elements in 8 groups, 7 aperture blades as the others we talked about. Its close focus distance is 9 centimeters, and it's 235 grams. So again, none of these are heavy at all. That's what I have for you in this regard, as far as the lenses go, and as far as I also need to give you some shots of Dylan. Let me do that right now with the 32. So this is my M collection, and again, I would highly recommend this to anybody out there, especially beginners, who are looking for simplicity. APS-C, of course, are you know, smaller sensors. Therefore, you know, the lenses you put on here are not exactly what they are. You have to, you know, convert them to full frame equivalency to understand that. You know, like a 50, if you know, if I grabbed, you know, like my Leica camera here, I have a 50 millimeter Summilux lens on here. If I put that on my EOS-M with an adapter, of course, to be able to do it, you know, this becomes a
75 millimeter lens.
so anyway, you know, all these lenses, as much as they say, you know, this is a 32, it's closer to a 50. You know, the 28 is closer to a 45-ish. You know, the 22 is closer to a 30, 35-ish. And then, as I said, the 15 to 45 is closer to or the equivalent of a 24 to 70. And the reason we say that is because if you take, you know, you take like using 24 to 70. If you take a 15 millimeter shot of what you're calling 15, looks like this, but actually you're zooming in, so you're cropping in 1.6 times. And so that zoom in brings it to the equivalency of 24 millimeter. And you'll know that if you ever use any of the picture cropping tools on, you know, Microsoft or whatever, you know, if you crop something out, you notice when you hit the enter button, it gets rid of whatever you cropped, and then all of a sudden your picture goes whoop, and it gets bigger. And that's exactly what APS-C and Micro Four Thirds and stuff do to the lenses. Is it takes, you know, it takes whatever view that you're seeing and crops it in either 1.5 or 2 times if it's Micro Four Thirds, 1.6 if it's this, and it blows it up. So that's why, you know, they always talk about, you know, the equivalency of a 35 millimeter full frame, you know, viewpoint when they're comparing these types of lenses and systems to, you know, full frame like my my Sony A7R or the Leica M9 that I have here are full frame, so there's no crop on those at all. So anyway, long story short, these are great lenses. They're great for beginners. They're very economical. Except this one's a little pricier than the rest, you know. But still, they're great for anybody who's looking to start off. And you know, at Modesty Photography here, we're here to save you money. We're here to introduce you to beginner photography and anything to make your life simple, right? So that's what this is all about. If you have any questions or want to leave comments down below, that'd be great. So I'm going to take this opportunity now, speaking of down below, you know, once you've taken pictures with these things, you know, the file format on these, you can take JPEGs, or you could take RAW files. And this camera also introduced a new Canon format, called CR3. Before that it was all CR2. CR3, reduces the regular compressed file by 40% more, so it's even more compact, so you can get more files into your SD card. So it uses a CR3. Now if you want to edit those, you know, you use Lightroom or Photoshop or Capture One or you know, various other ones that are out there, but the one I use because it's economical is called Luminar. And Luminar, like I said, you could click below to check out Luminar, and you'll save, if you buy it, you'll save $10 using the link below. And I get a little kickback, $10 from that too. So why not help out a poor teacher down on his luck, so to speak. So so that's my advice to you. Just check out Luminar. Even if you don't buy it from me, buy it for yourself anyway. It's very economical compared to the others, and it's yours for life. Once you own it, you own it. You can upgrade as they go along. Of course, you pay for those upgrades, but if you just want to keep the copy you have and go with that, it works fine. No reason to upgrade unless there's features you must have. Again, this was Modesty Photography. You know, we're here to save you money, introduce you to new things going on in the camera world, or for beginners who don't know anything about cameras, you know, hopefully a little introduction to that. So, you know, hopefully you can get out there and help me expose my my channel to the rest of the world. You know, help me get out there. So, you know, if you could do so, that would be great. The only way to do it is to subscribe, and please subscribe. Because remember, you belong here.
You beat my neighbor.
Besides just subscribing, how about giving me a thumbs up too? And with that said, how about a little thumbs up girls to go with it? Aren't they sexy? So, so that's it. That's it for this week anyway. That's it for this episode. You know, as I said, you know, if you're looking for a great little system, the Canon M50, actually they have a new model out now, the Mark II, you know, which is even better than this one. But these lenses, of course, can still be used with that one. So I would highly recommend this little camera to you out there. So if you're in the market for one, go to it. So that's all I've got for you for this week anyway. So you have yourself a great week. You have yourself a great weekend. And we'll see you in the next episode. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Here I